Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to get into some really deep stories. There's going to be a lot of TMI. There's going to be just a lot of stuff being said about female parts and things that happen. So if that disgusts you, or if that's something you don't want to hear about, then feel free to click away now. But if that does interest you and you do want to know, then feel free to continue on to this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you like it. Please subscribe to our channel and join our family, and hit that notification bell so that you can be one of the first ones notified when we upload our new videos. Now let's get into the video. Today, I'm going to be sharing a pretty sensitive topic for our family. I would consider myself an open book. I like to share my stories. I like to share my trials and the things that I have gone through, because I know that I'm never alone in my trials, and there are many other women or people in general who have experienced the same things that I have experienced. And sometimes I feel like when I can share those stories and share how I overcame different things and how I went through them, that maybe I'll connect with someone else and make them feel like they're not alone, and maybe even help them find ways to get through their trials and be able to, come back and be, a better version of themselves. And that's all I could ever ask for, honestly. About 9 months ago, in December of 2021, I had a miscarriage. So around this time now, I potentially would have been having my third baby. But this is going to be a lot harder to talk about than I thought it was going to be. I've been through therapy through all of this. It was a pregnancy that we were not expecting. It was a pregnancy that was really scary. At the time, mentally, Colin and I were not in great places. Just a few months prior to the miscarriage, I was in the emergency room for crisis. I really struggled with feeling like I had a worth on this earth, which for anybody who's ever experienced that knows that that's the worst feeling that you could have. So we were struggling already, and finding out that I was pregnant was really scary. At a certain point, we had been pretty prayerful about everything, and I started coming to terms with it all. I actually started feeling excited about the pregnancy and began looking forward to the milestones that come with being pregnant. My younger sister lived with us at the time, and she bought Hudson, my youngest, a Big Brother t-shirt that was really, really cute. And we had him wear the shirt to a restaurant with my dad, who was in town, and my younger brother. I never get to see either of them that much, so I took the opportunity to share the news with them. That was obviously exciting news for them, and I remember they were pretty antsy to tell people as well. They were wondering when we were going to tell people. Colin still wasn't quite ready to tell his family. He was still trying to process the new information himself. With everything that we had been going through, it was taking a while for him to fully process the pregnancy. So a couple weeks go by and I have my first doctor's appointment, and I'm really excited about it. I know that I'm going to be able to hear the heartbeat for the first time, and I'll be able to go home with an ultrasound of my third baby. The doctor was struggling to get a clear view of the baby, which was difficult for him to understand at the moment, because I was supposed to be, 10 and a half weeks at the time, where you would usually be able to see the baby pretty clearly. So he tried to listen to the heartbeat and he wasn't able to hear it. So he decided to go in and do a vaginal ultrasound, maybe being able to see the baby a little bit better and potentially being able to get a heartbeat that way. And at least I'm pretty sure that's what was going on. It's hard to remember at this point. Some of the information's a little fuzzy, but basically, long story short, the baby wasn't as big as it was supposed to be at that point, nor were we hearing a heartbeat. So The doctor prepared me for the news that this could potentially be a miscarriage, but also kind of gave me some hope that it might not be, that, you know, I could have had the date of my last period incorrect and maybe I wasn't as far along as I thought I was. And even though I was very confident on the date of my last period because I track it religiously, I still kind of had that hope in my mind that maybe I just wasn't as far along as I thought I was. So he had us come in the next day to get my blood drawn, and we were going to see if my HCG levels were rising or dropping. And we found out a few days later that they were dropping, which it can drop even the tiniest bit, and that means miscarriage always, as far as I know. So that was of course difficult news. And we were told that I was miscarrying, and they told me what to expect. They said I would start bleeding in a few days and it would get a bit heavier and heavier, and that I would eventually pass the baby and miscarry. They also gave me the option to take a pill to just get it over with in that moment. Or, I mean, not exactly in that moment, but get it over with faster. And for me, in my mind, I was still in denial about the whole thing and was kind of hoping that I was still pregnant, hoping that, you know, my baby was doing okay and that my baby was gonna be fine. So I was too scared to take the pill because I thought, what if my baby is fine and I'm taking the pill and then, you know, I'm ending my baby's life? And I'm sure there are other women out there who can relate to that feeling. So I decided to just naturally let my baby pass. And a week went by and I hadn't bled at all. I still wasn't having any pregnancy symptoms, but I wasn't bleeding either. Another week passed, so we're now at 2 weeks after my doctor's appointment where they told me that I was miscarrying. I started spotting just a little bit, and it was barely even spotting. Like, I didn't have to wear any type of pad or anything in my underwear. It was more so just like sometimes when I went to the restroom, there would be like a lightly tinged something on toilet paper. So I know that is so TMI. I warned you guys in the beginning that this is gonna be pretty detailed, but yeah, it was the lightest amount ever. So I kind of thought, like, you know, maybe it's starting to happen. And then, you know, through searching on Google, they tell you about how spotting can be normal in a pregnancy and that many women spot during healthy pregnancies. So I'm still having hope in my mind that my baby is growing and is healthy, and there was something wrong with the doctor's machines, or that, you know, I was gonna have a miracle from the Lord and my baby was going to get a heartbeat and start growing. And it was just very hopeful. I was just in denial, honestly. The day after I started spotting, at this point it was about like a light period. Another day passed and I started bleeding pretty heavily, and I needed to wear one of those like really thick overnight pads throughout the day, and I just had to change it, you know, every few hours. At one point, I had gone to use the restroom, and as soon as I sat down, I just felt foom. That is the best way I can describe the feeling that I had. I sat down, and out of nowhere, I just felt foom. Something came out of me, and it was not pee, and it was not number 2. Now, mind you, when this happened, I didn't even have the light on in the bathroom because it was nighttime and all the lights were being turned off. I was just getting up to use the restroom really quick before bed, and the hall light outside of the bathroom was on, so I had just kind of cracked the door and the light wasn't even on. I live in a house with my husband and 2 toddlers, and then my little sister lived with us at the time. I was very comfortable like not always closing the door, so it was cracked and I had some light coming in, so I didn't even turn the light on. So at this point, I try and like clean myself a little bit, and I actually threw the toilet paper in the trash can instead of the toilet because I didn't want to cover whatever came out of me because I needed to analyze it. I hadn't even gone to the bathroom yet at this point, so I was really just cleaning up some blood, and I was fine just throwing that in the trash can. I get up, I wash my hands, I turn the light on, and I go look in the toilet. And there is what to me looked like my baby was in the toilet. So I'm like struggling to breathe a little bit. That was really weird. That was a really weird experience. Of course, it hadn't like really developed much at all. It was still in this kind of like sac form, but you could see very subtle small shapes and little things, you know, being formed in little bones, and just like the head, and it had like a tail. That was weird. And I called my little sister over because she was just down the hall, and I didn't know if I was kind of forming that image in my own head, and maybe it was just like a blood clot. And I had her come in to look at it, and she's like almost white, just, that's your baby. So at this point, I had no idea what to do. If my baby's in the toilet, like, what do I do with it? Like, obviously, it's not a developed baby. As far as I know, it never even had a heartbeat. I mean, I didn't go in for my appointment until like 10 and a half weeks, so it definitely could have, and I just hadn't had a chance to hear it. But I didn't know if I should flush the toilet or take it, and like, I didn't want to take it and like bury it. For some reason that felt weird. And so after a while of just like sitting on my bathroom floor and staring at the inside of my toilet, I finally decided that it was fine to just flush the toilet. But for some reason, I still couldn't bring myself to do that. So my beautiful, amazing little sister, Riley, allowed me to just leave the bathroom and walk out, and she took care of that for me. And she probably doesn't even know this, but when I had walked out, I like cried for a minute, and I don't know why, but I felt like I wasn't allowed to show that emotion. I felt like, you know, it's been a few weeks, everybody's known that this was gonna happen. I felt like I should have processed it already. Like, what are you supposed to do with that? I don't know. That was really hard. So after that happened, I continued to bleed through my pads as I had been every few hours or so, and was changing them. It had gotten like a little bit heavier, which I thought was a little bit strange because I just kind of assumed that after I had passed the baby that bleeding would get lighter. I don't know why I thought that. I can't remember if I Googled it and that's what's normal or what, but that's just kind of what I had in mind. So when it started getting a little bit heavier, I just decided to put one of those really thick overnight pads in a Depends diaper, an adult diaper. And I put that on and I wore that to bed at night, and I just fell asleep as normal as I always do. And early in the morning, before my alarm went off for work, it was probably around 5:30 in the morning, I woke up a little bit. You know how in the middle of the night, sometimes you're not really waking up in the middle of the night, but you're turning to a different position to get more comfortable, and so you kind of remember being awake for like half a second, but then you readjust and then you're asleep again. I kind of thought that that's what I was doing, and maybe that is what I was doing at first, but all of a sudden I just felt, I'm sorry that I can only use sound effects to describe some of the things that I felt, but I just felt whoosh, and like kind of some slight subtle squirting, gurgling noises. The area that was coming out of felt very familiar. The amount felt like a lot. So I jumped up out of my bed, and I remember rushing to the bathroom because it felt like a lot. I rushed to the bathroom. I immediately pulled my pants down and I sat on the toilet, and I just see that there's obviously a lot. And immediately I see how much had filled up in that adult diaper with the pad in it. I fully take my pants off my ankles and I push it away from me in the bathroom. I just push it away, and I'm sitting on my toilet, and my thighs and my whole toilet seat and everything is just covered in blood. And as I'm sitting on the toilet, a lot more is continuing to come out. So at this point, I try calling Colin out of bed, but I don't want to yell and alarm him because I don't want him to wake up in a panic. So I'm just like, Colin, Colin, and I'm getting a little bit louder. I don't want him to think I'm calling him right now. He's upstairs. But I'm trying to call him from bed and I kind of get him to wake up and he's just like, huh, yeah. And I'm like, can you come here? And so he gets up and he comes over to the bathroom and he immediately sees my pants on the bathroom floor where I had pushed them away. And his whole face just went white. He had never seen that much blood ever. He told me after the fact that he thinks he struggled so much because the blood and the clotting and the amount that there was coming out of me, which was not normal. And it made him very lightheaded and sick. He ended up like turning around, walking back over to our bed, and he had to sit down and breathe because he thought he was gonna pass out. He told me after the fact, he's like, I don't feel like it was necessarily the blood that was making me feel sick and lightheaded because I've watched you give birth and I've seen stuff similar to that. But the fact that it was obviously a scary situation and it was coming from his wife whom he loved, it made him feel sick immediately. So I'm pretty sure he called his mom at this point and he was wondering what we should do. And during this time, I'm trying to figure out what I need to be doing in that moment because I've been sitting on the toilet for like a half hour at this point and I still have blood coming out of me and I'm tired of sitting on the toilet. So I hopped over into my bathtub, which was right next to me. It was not full of water. It was just an empty bathtub and I just hopped over in there and I just sat down and I was just like letting everything come out of me. And my bathtub was like filling with blood and there were just like huge clots and huge clots coming out of me. And this whole time I'm having no pain. I'm not cramping at all. Everything feels fine. It's just obviously not normal. When my husband got off the phone with his mom, I'm pretty sure that's who he was on the phone with. He told me that we needed to go to the emergency room and I immediately just bawled my eyes out because I did not want to go. Because the last time I had been to the emergency room, I was going because I had been bleeding and I wondered if I was miscarrying because I hadn't known for sure at that point. And I was there for hours and hours and hours and they told me at 2 a.m, yeah, you're miscarrying, and sent me home. And I thought that, you know, I would go and they would do like a D&C or something, and they didn't. They were just confirmed to me that I was miscarrying and sent me home. And that was so frustrating to me because I knew that I was miscarrying and I just thought that they were going to help me with it. So I didn't want to go and sit there for hours and hours for them to tell me, yeah, when you miscarry, you have a lot of blood, this happens. Because I had seen tons of stories on Instagram before of moms who had miscarried and they talk about how much blood there is and how it's crazy. And I've never miscarried before. This is my first time. So I just think this is just what happened. I've literally heard of women who get into their bathtubs because they just need to bleed. Not a bathtub full of water. I feel like I have to clarify that with so many people that it's not getting into a bathtub full of water. It's an empty bathtub. But anyway, he finally convinced me. So I'm getting clothes on and I'm struggling. And at first I think I'm struggling mentally because I don't want to go to the emergency room. That's what I thought I was feeling. So I was being so slow. I was trying to figure out what to put on because I'm still bleeding. Every time I put on a Depends diaper, it would just fill within like seconds. There was nothing I could wear or do without it just filling up. So I'm like, what do I even wear? Like, I don't want to like ruin my clothes. And I don't know, it was really hard to figure out what to put on in that situation. So I was just wearing a diaper and like this cropped tank top, just laying down in my closet trying to figure out what to put on. And Colin is coming in, he's trying to encourage me and help me. He's like, you know, we really gotta go. Like, I know you don't wanna go, but we just need to get dressed and we need to like get to the bottom of what's going on because this is really not normal. And I'm like, I know, I just need help. I don't know what to do. And he's like, what can I help you with? Do you want to wear some of my sweats? Like, you can wear mine. He's like, they'll be really big and comfortable, and I don't care if they get ruined. I don't care. You pick whatever you want. Just put on my clothes. And it's like, okay. And then I kind of started crawling out of the closet, and I stood up in my bathroom and I just looked in the mirror, and my face was so white. And I remember thinking like, whoa, I've never seen my face look like that before. And I kind of walked over to the bed and I just like sat myself down and I lied back a little bit, and I think I ended up like fully laying down. Colin had gone and he started the car already because it's December in Salt Lake City area. It's snowing outside. So he went out there and he started the car and he's getting it all warmed up and he got all the snow off of it and is ready to take me to the emergency room. I'm going really slow and Colin is trying to be so polite and kind and understanding and trying to help me. It's like, I will help like carry you to the car if you need, like, what do you need? And he's trying. I remember feeling like everything else was going faster than what I could understand. Colin was on the phone with his mom again, so he was a little bit distracted. I can't remember what he was talking to her about at that point. I mean, I'm sure it was about me, but I can't remember specifically why he had called her again or what happened. And at that point, I had kind of like slid off of my bed. Like, I was kind of on the side of the bed and I had just kind of slid off onto the floor because I was trying to stand up to go get pants. And I just ended up sliding off onto the floor and my body felt so heavy. And I just slowly lied down and I remember just staring under my bed, laying flat completely on the ground. And I started feeling like it was harder to breathe and that I couldn't get up. And Colin had come in, he had hung up the phone, and he got down and he's trying to talk to me. Don't even remember what he's saying. And I said, I am so scared. I need an ambulance now. So I hear him call 911. I hear him explain my situation, and the paramedics are on their way at this point. I started hyperventilating as much as my weak body could because I thought I was gonna die. That feeling of struggling to breathe and move, and I'm getting tired and my eyes are trying to close and I can't do anything. Like, I thought I was just slowly dying. The paramedics got there and they came upstairs to my bedroom and they said, hey Peyton, they're trying to call me. They're like, Peyton, I'm gonna need you to sit up so we can take your blood pressure. And in my head, I remember being like, excuse me, I cannot get up. There's no way I could get up right now. So they end up helping pull me up, and my bed frame at the time was a black metal bed frame, and it had like, not like rails, but you know what I mean, like tiny little poles. So I had grabbed one of them at the end, like my footboard. It's a corner where the side of the bed frame and the footboard come together. I was holding that as they took my blood pressure, and it was like 72 over 58 or something like that. They ended up taking it again a little bit later, and it was like 68 over 52. Like, it was just getting lower. I had never heard of blood pressure being that low, so I just thought I was dying. It was getting lower and lower. They told me that I was gonna need to walk down the stairs so that we could get in the ambulance and go to the emergency room. And in my head, I'm laughing with confusion and anger. Like, there's no way I can walk myself down the stairs right now. I'm like, who do these paramedics think they are? I was like so frustrated. And one of the paramedics ended up coming and like arm hooking under me right here. And Colin, I can't remember who was on which side, but one was on one side and then Colin came and arm hooked the other side. And they basically started like dragging me, and they were trying to encourage me to do the steps myself. I made it halfway down the stairs, mostly being dragged, and everything went black. Colin says that as they were holding me, my whole body just went like this and just like collapsed completely. He said it was the scariest thing he's ever witnessed in his life. But yeah, so I passed out. It's almost like my ears woke up before my eyes could. Like I started hearing things before I was able to actually open my eyes and come to. And I remember feeling snow tickle my face. There was light bits of snow. It was snowing on my face. So it kind of made my eyes open for a second, and I was outside on a gurney and they were putting me into the ambulance. That's when they had taken my blood pressure a second time, and it had gone down a little bit more. They gave me an IV and gave me fluids right away, and ended up taking my blood pressure again just before I was getting out of the ambulance and going into the hospital. And I think it had gone up a little bit at that point, but not by much. So I got a room. I remember thinking that I was at a completely different place than I was. I was like assuming that they had my charts, and I was like, my name's Peyton, like I've been here before, like trying to like spit out words. I was starting to come to at this point. Having fluids in my arm was definitely helpful. And they're like, we don't have any records of you. And I'm like confused the whole time because I think that I'm in this hospital that I've been to a bunch of times. I thought that I was in the hospital, not where I had my babies, but it's like the same company, the same business. They have like other hospitals around. So I didn't think I was at like the main hospital where I had my babies, but I thought I was at like one of their smaller office buildings, because some of those have like emergency rooms too. And they're like, no, you've never been here. So they're struggling. Like I'm trying to tell them like, I have POTS, I have EDS, I've had a gastric bypass. I'm like trying to spit some stuff out, and it's so hard. But yeah, I feel like I'm getting into like way too many details than I need to, but basically I got to the hospital and they gave me fluids, which was helping. I remember them having me sit up and take a pill to stop the bleeding, and having to sit up and take that pill was like insanely difficult, and I felt like I was gonna pass out again. So I literally swallowed the pill and I dropped my body so fast, like to lay back down. But yeah, they ended up having to call a doctor from another facility to bring tools to come perform a DNC procedure in the emergency room, because they don't keep all of the tools. They don't have like a kit to do all of that stuff in the emergency room. So they had to call another doctor from another facility to come with all the tools and perform an emergency DNC in the emergency room. So I didn't get an OR. I didn't get anesthesia. I didn't get any kind of pain medication, nothing. They just had to go in there with their ginormous metal tools and start scraping out the inside of my uterus. Like that was more painful than childbirth. I remember holding my husband's hand, and like almost every single time my whole back was arching, and I was just like some of the most pain I've ever felt. And it hurt for like days afterwards. It was so sore, and like my lower abdomen area. I realized that there was a lot more to it than just losing my baby. I hadn't fully processed the fact that I almost died that day. And that was something that I needed to be in therapy about, and that I needed to talk about. And I didn't realize how much it was affecting me I just didn't realize how much it was affecting me. That's it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and please subscribe to our channel. Help us out. It would mean so much to us if you could join our family. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so that you can be notified when we upload future videos. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Bye.